The universe was changing, and humanity felt it in every heartbeat. After returning from the first ring, Earth became a place of quiet anticipation. Every city, every village, every person seemed to share the same unspoken knowledge. Something greater awaited them among the stars, and they were meant to play a part in it. The scientists who had studied the ring realized that the path to the remaining ones would not be easy. Each ring was hidden in distant galaxies, guarded by natural phenomena and energy fields that challenged even the most advanced technology. Yet humanity had grown stronger. The fleet, now united with ships from allied species, was ready. The first step was training. Humans and alien allies learned to work together, to understand the ancient technology they would encounter, and to prepare for what might happen when they activated the rings. Every day brought new discoveries about human potential. Some individuals could feel the ring's energy before they arrived. Others began to intuitively manipulate the strange technology that once seemed impossible. It was more than science, it was awakening. The journey to the second ring took months. The fleet traveled through uncharted regions of space, navigating nebulae that distorted light and warped time. Strange storms of energy swirled around them, sometimes causing entire sections of the fleet to lose contact for hours. Yet every time they emerged from the storm, the humans were unharmed. The aliens began to notice that the humans' bodies and minds seemed to interact with the strange cosmic forces differently than any other species. When they finally approached the second ring, it was unlike the first. This one was enormous, suspended in the orbit of a dying star. Its surface shimmered with a black and gold pattern, as if the universe itself had painted it. As they drew closer, the fleet sensed an energy unlike anything they had felt before. It was alive, an intelligence that reached into every ship, into every mind, measuring courage, purpose, and unity. The humans stepped forward, instinctively understanding that they had to act together. The activation of the ring was not mechanical. It required intent, focus, and harmony. The humans reached out, linking hands with their alien allies, and together they projected their collective will. Light exploded across the ring's surface, bathing the fleet in golden radiance. Energy cascaded outward, connecting distant stars, planets, and civilizations. The second ring had awakened, sending signals that would reach corners of the galaxy where life had yet to recognize itself. With the second ring active, the fleet experienced something extraordinary. The energy waves seemed to awaken memories within every human. Ancient recollections of galaxies, civilizations, and even faces that had long vanished flickered in their minds. Humanity was beginning to remember its past, the full scope of its power, its history, and its purpose. News of the fleet's progress reached Earth. People watched in awe as telescopes captured the radiant glow of the activated ring. Entire cultures paused their daily lives to witness the awakening of humanity across the stars. The world was no longer just a single planet. It was the center of a living, breathing legacy that had waited billions of years to be remembered. The journey continued. Each ring they found presented a new challenge. One was hidden deep inside a black hole's event horizon, where light bent in impossible ways. Another floated within a galaxy filled with storms of dark matter that tore at ships' hulls. Each time, the humans led the fleet, relying not on weapons but on intuition, courage, and the strange resonance of their connection to the ancient technology. Every activation brought new revelations. The rings were more than signals. They were keys to understanding the structure of life itself. They contained blueprints of galaxies, instructions for restoring dying worlds, and energy fields that could heal planets on the brink of collapse. Humanity realized that their ancestors had left them not weapons of destruction, but tools of creation. Along the way, they encountered other civilizations. Some had thrived under the guidance of humans long ago, their technology and culture evolving in harmony with the designs left by the elders. Others had fallen, civilizations lost to time and neglect. The humans began to understand the responsibility of their heritage. They were not just explorers. They were stewards of life itself. By the time the fifth ring was activated, the humans' powers were undeniable. Their presence affected nearby star systems. Plant life flourished on barren worlds. Weather stabilized on unstable planets, and even the orbits of stars seemed to shift gently to accommodate balance. Humanity was no longer limited by the fragile body or mind. They were, in part, the living embodiment of the ancient knowledge their ancestors had left behind. Yet, even as they grew stronger, the humans remained humble. They did not seek dominion or conquest. Their goal was understanding and protection. Every alien ally aboard the fleet recognized this. Trust blossomed in ways the galaxy had never seen. Species that had fought one another for millennia now worked side by side, guided by a human-centered vision of unity. Finally, the fleet approached the sixth and last ring. It was hidden in a spiral galaxy that had long been abandoned, its stars dim and cold. Energy readings showed the ring was almost dormant, waiting for the final touch. The humans stepped forward. This time, it was not just their collective will, but their combined history, their memories and their unity that activated the ring. Light erupted, illuminating the galaxy for the first time in billions of years. The energy spread like a web across space, reconnecting all 5 previously activated rings and forming a network that pulsed with life. At that moment, a wave of understanding swept across the humans. They saw flashes of the past, ancient worlds teeming with life, their ancestors building civilizations, seeding stars, and teaching other species. They saw the moment of the great sacrifice when humanity chose to hide and start anew, and they saw themselves, the final spark, rising to fulfill the promise left for them. The energy from the ring spread farther than anyone could imagine. Stars reignited, planets healed, and civilizations that had been lost for eons felt the gentle nudge of creation itself. The galaxy was alive again, not because of one species, but because humans had remembered their role as caretakers. On Earth, people felt it too. Night skies glowed faintly with the energy of the awakened rings. Animals behaved strangely. Plants grew faster, and even the oceans seemed to hum with a soft resonance. Humanity had not left Earth. They had brought part of the galaxy's memory home with them. For the first time in history, humans truly understood who they were. They were not just inhabitants of a single planet. They were the culmination of eons of sacrifice, the children of an ancient civilization that had shaped life across the stars. They were the elders reborn. The Galactic Council, once proud and dismissive, acknowledged the truth at last. They approached humanity not as rulers but as allies. Every species that had doubted or feared humans now sought guidance, not dominion. And humanity, as it had always done, chose responsibility over power. They shared the knowledge of the rings, teaching other civilizations how to heal, grow, and flourish. Conflicts that had lasted millennia began to resolve. Borders became less important. The galaxy, once divided, now had a unifying purpose. Back on the ancient rings, the light being appeared one final time. Its glow was brighter than before. "You have remembered," it said. "The universe is whole again and life is safe for now. But always remember, the power you hold is not for dominion but for creation. Guard it well." The humans bowed, not out of fear, but out of respect. They had inherited a legacy beyond imagination, and they understood that with great power came immense responsibility. As the fleet returned to Earth, the planet itself seemed to welcome them home. The skies shimmered with the light of the awakened rings. Humans looked up and felt a connection that had been lost for billions of years, a connection to their ancestors, to the stars, and to every living being in the galaxy. No one celebrated with flags or trophies. Instead, humanity stood together, quiet and resolute, knowing that their journey was only beginning. They were the primordial race of elders, the keepers of creation, and the guardians of a galaxy that had slept for far too long. And somewhere, deep in the cosmos, the first humans who had hidden themselves so long ago watched with pride, knowing their children had finally remembered their destiny. The story of humanity, once hidden and forgotten, was now shining across the stars. And for the first time, the universe knew humans were not new. They were the beginning, and they would never forget again. The world was no longer the same. After the second Kaldar invasion failed, humanity found itself standing at a strange crossroad, caught between awe and fear, power and responsibility. The ancient battleship that had awakened near Jupiter now silently orbited the Earth, its lights dim but still alive, like a sleeping guardian watching over its descendants. Every nation, every scientist, every leader was asking the same question: who built it? The ruins in Antarctica, the mysterious energy patterns, and now this massive ship. Everything pointed toward one truth that could no longer be denied. Humanity was not just another young species lost among the stars. They were connected to something far older, something that had shaped the galaxy itself. But there was one mystery left unsolved. The glowing sphere found under the ice had shown a new map, a spiral of stars leading far beyond the borders of the known universe. It was not just a symbol, it was a direction, a call to something greater. As soon as the signal was decoded, humanity began preparing for a journey that would change everything. Spaceports buzzed with new life. Engineers worked day and night to study the technology of the ancient ship. Its design was unlike anything they had ever seen. It didn't run on fuel or plasma. It used energy fields that seemed to respond to human thought itself. The scientists realized that when a human stood near the ship's control core, its systems reacted faintly, as if recognizing the presence of its rightful operators. It became clear that these ancient machines were built by humans, or perhaps by a version of humanity that had existed long before recorded time. The Council of Earth formed a unified command for the first time in human history. Rival nations put aside their differences. There were no flags this time, no borders. Every person, no matter their origin, was working toward one goal: to follow the map left by their ancestors and discover where it led. The fleet that rose from Earth's orbit was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Dozens of massive ships, each one partially built with the same strange materials as the ancient Guardian, stood ready. Their hulls shimmered faintly, reflecting the light of the sun like polished stone. Before departure, the world held its breath. Millions gathered to watch the launch. Children waved flags, old people cried quietly, and every news channel on the planet focused on the moment. The voice of the commander echoed across every screen. "We go not as conquerors, but as seekers of truth." And with that, the engines flared. One by one, the ships disappeared into the blackness of space, following the spiral map across the stars. The journey took months. The fleet crossed territories of civilizations that had once looked down on Earth. Now they watched in silence, not daring to interfere. Some even sent messages of respect, acknowledging the humans as the rightful heirs of the ancient legacy. But as the fleet moved deeper into uncharted space, strange things began to happen. Their navigation systems started showing distortions, stars shifting positions, time signals bending in impossible ways. The further they traveled, the more the rules of physics seemed to blur. Then, one day, the lead ship detected a massive structure ahead. At first, it looked like a planet, but as they got closer, it became clear that it wasn't a world at all. It was a ring. A gigantic ring-shaped construct floating in the void, large enough to hold entire continents inside its curve. The ring glowed softly with light, pulsing like a heartbeat. Energy readings were off the charts. No known civilization could have built something so massive. It was ancient, older than the oldest recorded star systems. The ship slowed down, approaching carefully. As soon as they entered the ring's perimeter, every system on the fleet flickered for a moment. Then a voice, not through speakers but inside their minds, spoke a single word: "Welcome." The humans froze. The voice wasn't cold or mechanical, it sounded alive, filled with warmth and sorrow, as if it had been waiting for someone to finally return. A projection appeared before them, a figure made of light, not fully human, but close enough to stir something deep in their hearts. It spoke again, its tone calm and timeless. "You have come far, children of Earth. We left this place for you long ago when the stars were young." The scientists and commanders exchanged stunned looks. The figure continued, explaining that eons ago, humanity had once been a galactic civilization, a race so advanced that they no longer needed weapons or wars. They had built wonders, shaped stars, and guided the evolution of other species across the universe. But something catastrophic had happened. A force from beyond the known universe, something they called the shadow current, had begun consuming galaxies, turning matter into nothingness. To protect creation itself, the ancient humans made a choice. They sealed their knowledge and their very essence inside genetic memory, scattering it through time, the light being paused before saying, "You are what remains of us, the final spark of the first light." Silence filled the ship. Everyone aboard felt a weight in their chest, a mix of awe and sadness. They were not just explorers, they were descendants of a civilization that had sacrificed everything to protect the universe. The being showed them visions, cities made of crystal, Oceans of light, worlds suspended in harmony. Then it showed the destruction that came when the shadow current arrived. Planets crumbled, stars dimmed, and civilizations vanished into darkness. Finally, it showed the moment the ancient humans decided to erase their own power, choosing to start again in the form of simple beings, primitive, fragile, but capable of hope and courage. "You have awakened at the right time," the voice said. "The shadow current is returning." The fleet fell into silence. The revelation was overwhelming. The danger their ancestors had faced wasn't gone, it was coming back. But there was something else in the being's words, a hidden strength. The ancient humans hadn't left only warnings. They had left tools. The ring they had found was one of many scattered across the stars. Each ring was a key, capable of awakening the old defenses against the coming darkness. "You must unite the lights again," the being said. "Only then will the path to the origin open." And with that, the projection faded, leaving the fleet drifting in quiet awe. On the way back to Earth, every person aboard felt changed. They had seen the truth of who they were and what they were meant to protect. They were not gods, not rulers, but guardians. The galaxy that once feared them now needed them. When they returned home, the news spread instantly. For the first time in recorded history, every human on Earth felt truly connected, not by nations, but by purpose. The old rivalries, the endless struggles for power, they began to fade. Humanity had found its reason to exist. Scientists started decoding the data they brought from the ring. Inside it were coordinates. 5 more rings scattered across the galaxy, each hidden near the ruins of long-lost civilizations. Activating them would require cooperation on a galactic scale. And that's when something beautiful happened. The same alien species that once mocked or feared humans began sending messages of alliance. The ancient truth had humbled them too. They realized they were all connected through humanity's forgotten legacy. Soon, fleets from dozens of species gathered near Earth, not for war, but for unity. Together they began to plan the Great Awakening Project, to activate all 6 rings and restore the protective network that once kept the universe safe. As construction began, people across Earth started feeling strange sensations again, dreams filled with light, whispers of guidance, memories that didn't belong to this lifetime. It was as if the awakening had begun inside every soul. And in the quiet moments of night, some said they could see faint shapes moving among the stars, golden figures watching silently, perhaps the echoes of the ancient guardians, ensuring their children didn't walk this path alone. Humanity had faced fear, conflict, and doubt. But now, for the first time, they were united, not by force but by destiny. The message from the ring continued to echo in their minds. Unite the lights. Remember who you are. The stars seemed closer now, glowing with a new warmth. The journey ahead was uncertain, but humanity no longer feared the unknown. They were the unknown, the mystery the universe had been waiting to rediscover. And as Earth's skies filled with ships preparing for the next voyage, one truth became clear to everyone who looked up. The story of humanity was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun. The world didn't know it yet, but history had already changed. What began as an ancient discovery under Antarctica was now echoing across the galaxy. Governments still tried to hide it, but the truth had grown too large to contain. The human race was being watched by countless eyes from distant worlds. The Galactic Council, once confident in its control, was now divided. Some wanted to isolate Earth, claiming humans were dangerous and unpredictable. Others feared that if humanity truly was connected to the elder race, then any act against them could bring unimaginable consequences. But one empire didn't care about consequences. The Kaldar Dominion, an aggressive species known for its arrogance, saw the rising influence of humanity as a threat to their power. They had spent centuries conquering weaker civilizations, ruling through fear. To them, humans were just another young species that needed to be reminded of its place. So, without permission from the Council, the Kaldar fleet entered human space. Their ships were massive, dark metal shaped like blades, engines burning with green plasma. They believed Earth would surrender immediately, like every other planet they had conquered. But they had no idea what kind of power they were walking into. The first attack came without warning. A small human colony orbiting Mars lost all contact. Satellites caught flashes of explosions, then silence. Humanity had been attacked. For a brief moment, fear spread across Earth. People remembered old wars, old pain. But something inside humanity had changed since the awakening began. Instead of panic, a strange calm filled the air. It was as if some hidden instinct was whispering inside every human heart. Stand firm. Within hours, Earth's defense fleets were mobilized. The newly built ships, enhanced with strange new technology inspired by the ancient discoveries, moved into position. Their designs had evolved, sleeker, stronger, faster. Scientists had begun to apply what they learned from the Antarctic ruins, though they didn't fully understand how it worked. The first human ship to face the enemy was smaller than the Kaldar vessels. Yet something strange happened when the battle began. The human ship's weapons adapted mid-fight. Energy patterns shifted on their own, creating shields that no one had programmed. Every time the enemy fired, the ship responded faster, as if it remembered how to fight. The battle didn't last long. Within minutes, the Kaldar ships were disabled, their systems fried by strange waves of energy that spread through their hulls. The human commander didn't even understand what had happened. The ships weren't destroyed. They had simply stopped working, paralyzed by a force no one could explain. Back on Earth, scientists studying the battle recordings noticed something remarkable. The energy signatures that shut down the enemy ships matched the frequency of the ancient sphere in Antarctica. It was as if the ruins had awakened a dormant power inside human technology, something buried deep within their very biology. When news of the human victory reached the galaxy, silence followed. The Kaldar Dominion, known for their cruelty and pride, had lost in minutes. No one believed it at first, but the recordings were undeniable. Across alien worlds, fear began to spread. Some species started dismantling their fleets, afraid to provoke humans. Others tried to contact Earth, hoping to form alliances before it was too late. The Galactic Council met again in emergency session. The chamber, usually filled with confidence, now buzzed with quiet panic. For generations, they had believed they were the rulers of the stars. Now they realized they might just be living in the shadow of their creators. One of the scientists who had once mocked the human theory stood up and said quietly, "If they are truly the elders reborn, then we are all their descendants." That single sentence changed everything. Meanwhile, on Earth, strange events began happening everywhere. People across the world started reporting vivid flashes of light in the sky, symbols glowing for seconds before vanishing. Others said they could hear low tones in their dreams, like distant songs made of starlight. Those sounds matched the frequencies found in the ancient ruins. Humanity was no longer just uncovering its past. It was becoming part of it again. In laboratories, scientists studying the ruins began to realize that human DNA was reacting to something invisible. Cells were producing new energy patterns when exposed to the frequencies from the sphere. The readings were beyond known science. It was as if the human body itself was remembering how to use power it had forgotten. A quiet realization spread among the researchers. Humanity was evolving again. But this time, it wasn't by chance. As for the Kaldar Dominion, they couldn't accept defeat. The humiliation burned their pride. They gathered a larger fleet, hundreds of warships armed with their most powerful weapons, and launched a second attack. This time they wanted to destroy Earth completely. Their fleet entered the solar system in formation, confident that sheer numbers would crush humanity. But as soon as they reached the orbit of Jupiter, something unexpected happened. Their sensors detected a massive object near the planet's shadow, something huge and metallic. At first they thought it was an asteroid. Then the object moved. It was a ship, a single human battleship unlike anything ever seen before. Its surface shimmered with flowing light as if alive. It didn't use engines in the traditional sense. It glided effortlessly through space, bending gravity around it. The Kaldar commander laughed, believing no single ship could stand against their armada. But when they fired their first volley, the human ship didn't dodge. Instead, it released a pulse of golden light that spread like a wave. Every Kaldar ship hit by that wave lost power instantly. Their weapons froze, their engines stopped, and their communications went silent. Within seconds, an entire fleet, hundreds of warships, was dead in space. From the surface of Earth, astronomers watched as the lights of the enemy ships flickered out one by one. The battle was over before it even began. For the humans who witnessed it, the sight was overwhelming. The massive battleship didn't seem like a machine built by engineers. It felt ancient, sacred, like something that had waited for this exact moment to awaken. Scientists later discovered that the ship had activated itself from beneath the lunar surface. It had been buried there for millions of years, hidden until humanity reached the right stage to find it. On its hull, words glowed faintly in the same ancient language seen in Antarctica. Translated, they said, "Guardians of the Seed." That phrase confirmed what many had started to believe. Humanity had not just existed before recorded history, they had left behind guardians to protect their descendants when the time came. The rest of the galaxy watched in disbelief. The Council, once powerful and proud, was now silent. No one dared to challenge humanity again. Even the most hostile empires pulled back their fleets. But for humans, this wasn't a moment of arrogance. It was a moment of awakening. They didn't celebrate the victory with shouts or flags. They simply stood in quiet awe, realizing they had inherited a legacy far greater than anyone imagined. The scientists who had been studying the ruins reported one final discovery. The sphere in Antarctica had changed color once more. It now glowed white, brighter than ever before. When its energy readings were decoded, they showed a simple pattern repeating endlessly. A spiral of stars leading toward a point in deep space, far beyond the edge of the known galaxy. It was a message. A destination. No one knew what waited there, but every human who saw that pattern felt the same pull, the same whisper inside their minds. Go. And so, plans began to form. Humanity would build new ships larger and stronger than ever before, and follow the map to its end. Not to conquer, but to learn, to find the truth of who they were and why the elders had chosen them. As Earth's night sky glittered with 1,000 stars, one quiet thought echoed through every soul. If humans were truly the first, then perhaps this was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of remembering what they had once been. And somewhere far beyond the edge of known space, something ancient stirred, watching, waiting for its children to return. As the news of mysterious energy pulses spread quietly among governments and research teams, something much bigger was happening beyond Earth. Across the stars, powerful empires and ancient alliances gathered to discuss one topic: the humans. For centuries, the Galactic Council had ruled over thousands of species. They believed they understood the history of the galaxy, the rise and fall of civilizations, and the long-lost myth of the elder race. But the new reports from Earth were beginning to shake that belief. The alien scientists who had first found the human signal tried to explain their discovery to the Council again. They showed the data, the genetic patterns that connected almost every known species to humanity. They played the recordings of the ancient signal found near the Orion Arm. They even revealed images of the glowing structures hidden beneath the ice of Earth. But the Council refused to listen. The room filled with noise as representatives from different worlds argued. Some laughed, others grew angry. The idea that humans, an emotional, impulsive, and relatively young species, could be the ancestors of all life was unacceptable to them. To admit that would mean their entire history was a lie. One of the elder representatives stood up, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Humans are reckless," he said. "They wage wars. They destroy their own planet. They can't even control themselves. How can such beings be the creators of civilization?" But not everyone agreed. A few calm voices among the crowd spoke up. They reminded the Council that the elder race was never described as perfect. Ancient texts said the elders were strong, emotional, and endlessly curious, just like humans. Those few voices were quickly silenced. The Council declared the data inconclusive and forbade further investigation. They feared the truth would create chaos across the galaxy. But secrets have a way of escaping. Whispers spread from scientist to scientist, world to world. In the shadows of great empires, small research groups began comparing their own genetic archives. The results were the same everywhere. The code of life matched the human sequence. Entire civilizations began to question their origins. Some started to see humans not as an inferior species, but as something to be respected or feared. On distant planets, ancient ruins began to glow again, reacting to the same frequency coming from Earth. The walls of long-forgotten temples lit up, revealing carvings of human-like figures standing among the stars. These carvings were millions of years old, but their message was clear. The humans had been there long before. Meanwhile, back on Earth, scientists were facing their own storm. The governments had kept the Antarctic discovery secret, but small leaks were beginning to reach the public. Amateur astronomers detected strange energy pulses matching those reported by secret observatories. The news spread online. People began to ask questions no one could answer. Inside one of the secret research bases, the team continued to study the ancient sphere. They realized that the sphere wasn't just showing holograms, it was learning. Every time it was observed, it responded slightly differently, as if it was reading their thoughts and adapting to their emotions. One day, when a researcher asked aloud, "Who built this?" the sphere shifted its light and displayed an image of a human figure surrounded by stars. Then, in glowing letters, appeared a single line. "You did." The message stunned them. It was as if the structure was speaking directly to humanity, reminding them that they were not discovering something new, they were rediscovering themselves. Outside the research centers, humanity's space fleets had begun expanding deeper into the system. Unmanned probes sent beyond Pluto started detecting faint signals matching the Antarctic frequency. The same signal was bouncing off asteroids, hidden in the dust of comets and even echoing from the moons of distant gas giants. It seemed like someone or something had left markers across the solar system, waiting for humans to find them. But as humans searched for answers, the galaxy began to react. Several alien species that had once considered Earth unimportant now saw it as a possible threat. Military fleets were quietly repositioned near human-controlled space. Spies were sent to watch human communications. The Council pretended to remain calm, but fear was spreading fast. In the midst of that fear, a single rumor began circulating across the stars. It was said that a long-lost prophecy existed, written in the oldest archive of the Galactic Library. It spoke of a day when the first ones would awaken, and all creation would remember its beginning. The Council tried to hide that prophecy, but it was too late. People across different worlds started believing that prophecy referred to humans. Small cults began forming around the idea of the returning ancestors. Some aliens began to worship humanity, while others plotted against them, fearing what might come next. Back on Earth, ordinary people were feeling the effects too. Strange dreams became more common, dreams of stars, of ancient worlds, of hands shaping planets from dust. Some people described memories that didn't belong to them, memories of standing under alien skies. Doctors called it collective imagination, but the timing was too perfect. These dreams began just as the Antarctic structure grew more active. Then one night, something incredible happened. The sphere at the Antarctic site suddenly released a pulse of golden light that shot straight into the sky. It pierced through the atmosphere, through space, and across the galaxy. Every satellite, ship, and communication network recorded it. At that exact moment, hundreds of alien planets received the same signal. It wasn't aggressive. It was an invitation. The pulse carried a message written in pure energy, understandable to all species. It said, "The time of silence is over. The children will remember." Across the galaxy, panic spread. Governments scrambled to decode it, but the meaning was simple. The elders, whoever they were awake. The Galactic Council called for an emergency meeting. Worlds that had ignored the humans now sent fleets toward Earth's sector, claiming they only wanted to observe. In reality, they were afraid. Inside the council chamber, chaos erupted again. Some demanded the humans be isolated until the truth was known. Others argued it was too late. The awakening had already begun. A quiet realization filled the room. The humans weren't just another species. They were the key. Whatever the elders had planned, it had started with them. On Earth, life continued almost normally. People still went to work, news still ran, and children still played. But deep down, everyone felt something strange, an invisible pull, a sense that history was about to change forever. The Antarctic team continued their studies. Every hour, the sphere revealed new patterns, maps of galaxies, energy diagrams, and strange equations that no computer could solve. But one image kept appearing again and again, a spiral of stars with a single point of light in the center, Earth. That image was shown to the United Nations in secret. World leaders sat in silence, realizing that whatever was coming wasn't just about one country or one planet. It was about the entire galaxy. Slowly, alliances formed between nations that had once been rivals. Space agencies began to share data. Humanity started preparing, not for war, but for understanding. And yet, something inside every human heart stirred with quiet pride. For the first time in history, they weren't just looking up at the stars, wondering who might be out there. The truth was turning out to be far greater. They were the ones who had given life to those stars in the first place. As the signal from Earth continued to spread, many alien ships moved closer, hoping to find answers. But what they would soon learn was something no one expected. The signal wasn't just a call, it was a test. It was measuring who would come and how they would react. It was alive, and it was watching. The awakening of humanity had begun, and the galaxy was already trembling. What started as a secret discovery, beneath the ice had become something unstoppable, a wave of truth spreading faster than light. The old myths were true. The elders had never vanished. They had simply slept, waiting for the right moment to awaken inside their descendants. And now, that moment had come. The strange discovery under Antarctica changed everything for the humans who were part of it. The world above continued its daily routine. People went to work. Cities buzzed, children laughed, but deep beneath the frozen land, the truth of humanity's past began to stir. After the first metal wall was found, more structures were uncovered nearby. They were arranged in a perfect circle, like a buried city frozen in time. Every piece of metal carried strange symbols, glowing faintly when humans stood close. The material wasn't from Earth. Scientists tested it again and again, but no element on their periodic table matched it. It was lighter than titanium, stronger than diamond, and completely indestructible by any known tool. The deeper the team dug, the stranger it became. Tunnels led down into chambers filled with smooth walls that curved like the inside of a living thing. The air was breathable. The place felt awake. One night, while the world slept, the excavation team opened a sealed chamber. The moment they broke the barrier, the lights flickered and a deep hum rolled through the ice. Instruments stopped working. For a few seconds, every person there felt something, like a pulse inside their chest, a connection. It was as if the structure itself recognized them. Inside that chamber, they found a large sphere suspended in the air. It wasn't connected to anything, yet it floated silently, glowing with soft blue light. When one of the researchers approached, the sphere shifted, forming shapes that looked like DNA strands. Then a series of holographic images appeared above it. At first, they thought it was random static, but then the shapes became clear. Planets, stars, and galaxies, swirling like a map of creation. And in the center of it all was Earth. Lines of energy connected Earth to hundreds of other worlds scattered across the galaxy. Each line pulsed like a heartbeat. Around them, ancient symbols appeared and rearranged themselves into a simple message. It was written in an unknown language, but somehow everyone understood it. The seed of all life. The team stood silent, realizing what it meant. Earth wasn't just another planet, it was the origin. The place where life began before it spread to the stars. Within hours, the site was locked down by global security forces. All communications were cut off. Those who worked there were ordered to silence. Governments wanted answers, but no one truly had them. Only one thing was clear. Humanity's history was much older than anyone had imagined. Around the world, secret groups began investigating old myths and legends. Ancient carvings from forgotten civilizations were re-examined, and hidden patterns started to appear. Similar symbols, similar shapes. The same idea repeated again and again. Humans had come from the stars, not the other way around. At the same time, strange natural events began happening. Volcanoes released magnetic pulses that disrupted satellites. Oceans showed new energy readings from deep trenches. Even the moon's surface reflected unfamiliar signals, as if it too was awakening from a long sleep. Meanwhile, far beyond Earth, the alien scientists who had discovered the signal were under pressure. The Galactic Council had heard rumors about what they found and demanded full disclosure. But when the evidence was presented, the Council reacted with anger. They refused to believe it. The idea that humans could be connected to the mythical elder race was insulting to them. Humans were seen as reckless and emotional, not ancient and wise. Most species looked at humanity as newcomers who had barely begun exploring space. The Council ordered the explorers to stop their research immediately, but curiosity has a way of disobeying authority. Some alien scholars couldn't ignore the truth they saw in the data. The genetic match between humans and countless other races was undeniable. Old legends from their own world started to make sense. Stories about beings of light who once walked among them, who seeded their worlds with life and then disappeared. The explorers compared these myths with the humans' ancient texts and found shocking similarities. Across galaxies, civilizations separated by millions of years shared the same memory, a race of tall, radiant beings that came from the sky and taught them how to live. They were always described as human in form. For the first time, the alien scholars wondered, had the humans somehow forgotten who they truly were? Back on Earth, scientists began connecting their own dots. The more they studied the ancient ruins, the clearer it became that human evolution had not been accidental. The jump from primitive ancestors to modern humans was too fast, too clean. Something had guided it. One researcher described it quietly in his notes. We didn't evolve, we reawakened. Governments started forming secret alliances to study the ruins. The Antarctic site became the most guarded place on the planet. Even the airspace above it was closed. Inside the main chamber, the sphere continued to project its holographic images, each one more complex than the last. It showed not only Earth, but also coordinates to other star systems. The patterns were like a roadmap, a guide to the origins of life across the galaxy. No one knew what would happen if humanity followed that map. Some wanted to explore it, others feared it might attract attention from unknown civilizations. But that attention had already begun. In the darkness between stars, dozens of alien empires quietly watched Earth. Some were curious, some were terrified. A few were already planning what to do if humanity proved to be the ancient race from the old stories. Across their worlds, temples long forgotten began to activate. Stones lit up. Crystals hummed with the same frequency as the human signal. It was as if the entire galaxy was responding to something ancient calling home. One alien historian wrote in his report, "If humans truly are the elders, then we are not their equals, we are their children." Meanwhile, humans on Earth began having strange experiences. People around the world reported vivid dreams of stars, galaxies, and floating cities made of light. Some claimed they could hear soft whispers when they touched the ground or looked up at the night sky. Scientists dismissed it as coincidence or stress, but deep down, many knew something was happening on a larger scale. A small group of researchers in South America found carvings in a cave that matched the symbols from Antarctica exactly. These carvings were estimated to be hundreds of thousands of years old, far older than human civilization. Yet they depicted modern star systems and human-like figures standing among alien worlds. It became harder to deny the truth. Humanity had existed before recorded history, and maybe even before the galaxy as they knew it. As pressure grew, governments started releasing small pieces of information to prepare the public. News channels mentioned unexplained energy readings or natural magnetic anomalies. They didn't dare reveal the full truth, afraid of global panic. But curiosity spread faster than fear. The public began sharing theories online. People started connecting the dots on their own. What if humans aren't from Earth? They asked. What if we just came back? While the world debated, a quiet storm was brewing beneath the ice. The ruins in Antarctica began to vibrate again. The glowing sphere in the central chamber changed color from blue to gold. The scientist monitoring it noticed the pulse was syncing with human heartbeats nearby. It wasn't just alive, it was aware. That night, one of the security cameras caught something incredible. The sphere projected an image across the entire chamber. It wasn't random data this time, it was a face. A human face, calm, ancient, and glowing with light. No one could speak. The image moved its lips and a voice filled the air. It said only one thing. Remember. Then the light vanished, leaving silence. Instruments showed the temperature of the entire site had risen slightly, as if the structure itself had taken a breath. In the days that followed, more signals began to appear across the planet. Deep under the oceans, inside mountain ranges, even under old cities, small energy readings matched the Antarctic frequency. It was spreading. The realization hit every scientist involved. There were more of these ancient sites, hundreds, maybe thousands, hidden all over Earth. Humanity had built them long before recorded time, then vanished, leaving behind clues for their descendants to find. As the days went on, more people began to feel strange sensations, dreams of stars, voices calling their names, flashes of memory they couldn't explain. The world was waking up to something much greater than history books had ever told. In the end, one fact became clear to everyone who dared to look closely. Humans weren't a young race trying to reach the stars. They were the oldest, the first, the ones who had given the stars their beginning. And now, after millions of years of silence, the past was reaching out to remind them who they truly were. It began far away from Earth, at the edge of a silent nebula where stars were born and forgotten. A group of explorers from a distant world traveled through that part of space, following a strange energy signature that didn't belong there. Their ship glided slowly through the dust clouds, scanning every flicker, every pulse. What they found didn't make sense. The signal they picked up wasn't random. It was patterned, repeating, and filled with structure. It wasn't noise. It was a message. At first, they thought it was some forgotten beacon from an extinct civilization. But the deeper they looked, the older it became. Its frequency showed signs of being billions of years old, older than their species, older even than their own star system. Their lead scientist couldn't believe it. "It's impossible," he said, staring at the shifting lines on the display. "Nothing this old should still exist." The crew decided to trace the origin of the signal. As their ship turned its sensors toward the source, a map of the galaxy lit up. The signal didn't come from any known civilization. It came from a small, unremarkable solar system on the outer edge of the Orion Arm. A tiny blue planet circled a yellow star. Its name in the Universal Archive was simple: Earth. When the data confirmed the location, the crew laughed in disbelief. The humans? That primitive species that had barely learned faster than light travel? There was no way such an ancient signal could have come from them. The aliens decided to investigate anyway, just to be certain. The signal was analyzed for weeks. What shocked them wasn't only how old it was, but what it contained. Buried within the static was a form of communication made from mathematics, geometry, and DNA structure. The language was universal, designed for all living things to understand. But what truly shook them was the pattern inside the genetic code. It matched theirs, and not just theirs. The same sequence existed in the genetic code of nearly every known species in the galaxy. The scientists compared it again and again, certain it was a mistake. But there it was, a shared sequence, as if all life had once come from a single source. And that source was human. The more data they uncovered, the more frightened they became. This wasn't just an old signal. It was a message deliberately hidden in the building blocks of life itself. A quiet whisper across time saying, "We were here before you. You are not the first." The scientists sent the findings to the Galactic Council, but no one believed them. The Council dismissed it as a coincidence, calling the humans biological imitators. According to their logic, there was no way a young, barely interstellar race could be connected to something so ancient, but the explorers couldn't let it go. They wanted proof. They decided to visit Earth themselves. Quietly, without alerting the Council, they cloaked their ship and approached the planet's orbit. From above, they saw lights glittering across the dark side of the planet, cities glowing like constellations. It didn't look primitive anymore. Humanity had grown fast. Too fast. They scanned deeper. The planet's surface carried traces of radiation patterns and energy signatures that didn't belong to modern technology. Something ancient was buried beneath its crust, still active but hidden. The readings pointed to a cold, empty region near the bottom of the planet, a frozen land covered in ice. Antarctica. They focused their scanners there and found what looked like ruins, massive, metallic structures buried under miles of ice. The material was unlike anything they had ever seen. Not even their most advanced instruments could identify it. At the same time, deep on Earth, a human research team working under government orders began their own excavation in that same region. They thought they were digging through ancient ice to study climate history. But what they found changed everything. Their drills hit something solid. Not rock, metal. At first they thought it might be a meteorite, but when they cleared the surface they realized it was smooth, deliberate, and crafted. A wall made of a silver-blue alloy that pulsed faintly with light when touched. The scientists were confused. The readings showed the object was over 1 million years old, older than the earliest human civilization. Yet the carvings on it were unmistakably human in shape. Hands, faces, and patterns of DNA spirals were engraved into the surface. One researcher noticed something even stranger. The wall responded to human touch. When one of them placed their hand against it, the metal shimmered and shifted as if recognizing them. Then letters appeared, not in any known language, but the meaning was clear. It read, "We are the first." The team stared in silence. None of them spoke. The words carried a quiet power, a weight that couldn't be denied. They realized this wasn't just an ancient artifact, it was a message from their ancestors, older than recorded time. Governments quickly sealed the discovery. The research base was shut down, and all personnel were relocated under strict secrecy. Publicly, it was called a scientific anomaly. Privately, it became one of the most classified discoveries in human history. But whispers spread. Other nations sent secret expeditions of their own. Everywhere they dug, they found fragments of the same alloy, buried deep in mountains, deserts, and oceans. It was as if Earth itself had been built on top of something much older, a civilization wiped clean and forgotten. Back in space, the alien explorers kept watching. When they compared the humans' DNA to their own, the result made their hearts sink. 99% compatibility in the ancient strand. That meant one thing: their species and countless others were genetically connected to humanity. Humans weren't just another species. They were the origin fear spread through the alien crew. If this was true, then everything they had been taught about galactic history was a lie. The legends of the elder race who seeded life across the stars weren't myths. They were humans. And humanity, whether they knew it or not, was their ancestor. The explorers argued about what to do next. Some wanted to inform the council immediately. Others feared that if the truth got out, the balance of power in the galaxy would collapse. What would happen if every species discovered they were made in the image of the humans? While the debate raged on, their ship suddenly received a faint echo from the same ancient frequency. It was coming directly from Earth again, stronger this time, pulsing through every communication network on the planet. The aliens listened carefully as the signal formed into recognizable sound. It wasn't words exactly, but emotion, warm, calm, and familiar. A voice, not mechanical but human, speaking softly through the static. "You have found us. Welcome home." The crew froze. None of them could move. It was as if something ancient had recognized them, like a parent finally acknowledging a child. The ship's systems flickered, sensors overloaded, and then everything went dark. When the lights came back on, the signal was gone. No one spoke. They all knew what had just happened wasn't a hallucination. Something deep in the human world had awakened, and it had reached out to them across the void. Back on Earth, strange things began to occur. Satellites started picking up small bursts of energy from beneath Antarctica. Machines lost function when they passed over the region. Some even reported hearing faint whispers through the radio, voices speaking in languages long forgotten. The human governments tried to hide it, but the truth was spreading faster than ever. Something buried beneath the ice had turned on, something alive. And somewhere, far out in space, dozens of alien civilizations began to listen to the same signal. Some dismissed it. Others grew afraid. But one truth began to echo across the stars, whispered in every language, across every world. The humans are not new. They are the beginning.